Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Sarah from Sarah's Reading Nook, and today I'm going to be doing a very quick September reading wrap-up. You'll notice that it's a little dark outside. I am filming this in the morning, and so where I live in northern Canada, it stays dark for a long time in the morning. But anyhow, I wanted to catch you guys quickly before I go to work. Now, in the month of September, I read less books than in other months. So I read 5 books, but I'm still happy because the books that I read were very good and I enjoyed them quite a bit. So before we jump into the books, just a reminder to hit the like button and to subscribe. So I started off September with a book called A Stranger at Home, and it was great. I ended up giving it 5 stars. So just referring back to my notes, after 2 years at a residential school, Margaret, who is the main character, returns back to home. Her family lives in the Arctic, and because she went to a residential school, going back home, she feels very disconnected from the rest of her family and her culture as well. For instance, she has to relearn her language, she is treated by others as if she is a stranger, and she also even lost a taste for her mother's food. What I loved about Margaret's character was just how persistent she was and how much she loved and cared for her younger sister. The topic of residential schools is a very difficult topic to discuss and to learn about, but I felt that this book was very digestible and easy to read by young readers and also adults as well. And some other books that are written by this author. So the authors were Christy Jordan Fenton, Margaret Bokiak Fenton, and Liz Amany Holmes, who was the illustrator. So some other books by Margaret are Fatty Lakes, When I Was 8, and Not My Girl. It was a great children's nonfiction book, and I definitely recommend that you read it. Then I read The Tale of the Unknown Island, and that was written by a very famous Portuguese writer named José Saramago. So this book is sort of a very philosophical book. He goes to the king trying to request a boat. Why does he want this boat? He wants to find the unknown islands. However, the king replies back and he's like, we know all of the islands that are out there to be known. So they are going back and forward and back and forward. And so finally he gets granted the ability to get on the boat and explore. It's a bit of a wild ride too because he does not have a crew. He does not know what he's doing with this boat, but he wants to know what is out there. I thought it was such a cool book because just even the question of daring to explore what is unknown, that's a very cool one. It was very beautifully written, very compelling, and it was super short as well. I have so many quotes that I want to take from that book, and here's one. They say there are no more unknown islands, and that even if there were, they weren't prepared to leave the comfort of their homes and the good life on board passenger ships just to get involved in some ocean-going adventure, looking for the impossible as if we were still living in the days when the sea was dark. And what did you say to them? That the sea is always dark. 5-star, would read it again, and I want to read some of his books, but instead of in English, I want to try and jump into Portuguese. Perhaps I will read this one again, but in Portuguese. Then I read a graphic novel called El Defo, and so the creator was C.C. Bell, and the colorist was David Lasky. Again, just a wonderful book to read. So when C.C. was young, she suffered from meningitis. And I'm sure you probably have heard of meningitis before. It's basically inflammation surrounding the brain of the meninges, really. Okay, so this is basically where I can't help myself and where scientist Sarah gets to talk to you about meningitis and about anatomy, which is my favorite topic. I am going to be talking to you about meningitis. If you don't want to hear about this, go ahead. But if you want a mini anatomy lesson, I love anatomy, so let's do it. So basically what you're looking at here are the meninges, the arachnoid, the pia, and the dura mater. So those are just protective coverings around the brain and the spinal cord. So that makes up your central nervous system. So in something like meningitis, there is an inflammation like an acute inflammation process of these coverings. And fun fact, itis, if something has the word itis at the end, it means inflammation. Now, this can be caused by viruses, bacteria, or other organisms. It can be life-threatening, and it's a medical emergency. So the fact that Cece was able to survive this type of infection was huge. However, she developed hearing loss. So she was not born with hearing loss, she acquired it later on. So she does talk about like the difficulty in being able to hear and how that affects her. However, childhood is such a pivotal, important year in terms of developing social relationships, finding a place in the world, finding friendships, a sense of belonging, those sorts of things as well. And one of the objectives of Cece is to find a forever true friend. And because of these difficulties that she has to face, she channels an alter ego. And that alter ego is El Defo. A few notes on the characters in the book. Her relationship with her friend Martha is just so adorable and just so telling of what true friendship faces over time and the sense of like kinship when you come together. Her mother always wanted the best for Cece, even though she didn't quite know it. And of course, it is so important to have like proper guidance in life and encouragement. And her mom was there to encourage her during her struggles. And so if you have parents that have helped you get through like difficult points in life, like for me, this was very reminiscent of that. And I just loved reading it. So this book was a memoir, graphic novel, nonfiction, and there definitely needs to be more books that talk about challenges that are faced when one has a disability or challenge to overcome in their life. So yep, 5 stars, very good, I loved it. So I won't go into this next book too much. The next book is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I've talked about it in my September favorites, and there was a lengthy discussion that we had at the Top Shelf Society at Perks of a Bookflower's YouTube channel. So you can see that video up above. Basically, it's a book where firefighters burn books instead of extinguishing fires. It has a very intriguing concept behind it and one that sort of draws you in. 5-star, very good book. Highly recommend you read it. And you can read it very quickly. In a couple of days, even in just one sitting, you can definitely get through it. And the last book that I completed in September was Yesterday I Was the Moon, which was independently published. So it was a poetry collection, and the genre fits into like nonfiction, contemporary love, romance, Pakistan, courage, self-love, culture. And so there were things that I enjoyed about this book and then things that I thought could be improved. So the last half of the book had quite a few poems that were pretty meaningful to me and I thought were quite good. Although I do appreciate reading this as it did give me some very good poems to read. And my favorite poem was "The kind people are running this world. They don't know their one little smile has saved many lives." My rating of the book was about a 3.8, and I would recommend it to others who maybe want an introduction to poetry and want to know a little bit about this author's life. Okay, so that is all the books that I completed in September. I'm really looking forward to going into October with a sort of clean slate. I'm going to put books, except for one book that I still need to complete. I'm going to put these books sort of on the back burner and focus on October. So 2 books that I am hoping to read or to complete by the end of this month are The Humans and Solutions and Other Problems. Now my phone is telling me that it is September 29th, so I don't have that much time. However, that is my objective for now. And now I need to leave you with a Portuguese word of the day. So my Portuguese word of the day is one of my favorite Portuguese words. The word is batata. Batata. Adoro batatas, adoro batatas. The word batata means potato, and potatoes are my favorite vegetable. Anyway, that's everything for today. I will talk to you soon. Don't forget to hit the like button and also to subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Who knows, maybe we'll go through the entire Portuguese dictionary. I'll see you next time. Bye!